Are you someone that gets hung up on the intricate little details of every training session? If so, I got one of those that I think you can stop caring about at all, and that is rest intervals. Okay, so now that I have your attention, let me clear this up for you because I can already hear people, reacting behind the video saying, well, of course rest intervals matter. I can't just like endlessly do repetitions. It can't be 0 seconds between sets. And on the other end, I don't have 3 hours that I can have in between sets. So clearly rest intervals matter. That's fair. But what I'm trying to get at is I think some people get caught up in details like this that they don't need to place so much importance on. If you're in the gym and you're making sure that the rest interval is exactly 60 seconds, and one time it's 61 seconds, and one time it's 70 seconds, and one time it's 50, the difference that that's going to make is probably insignificant, right? Now, why I especially think that caring about them is almost useless, a couple points of view. One, it really depends on your body. So, there's studies and people who analyze that for specific exercises or specific means that you're trying to, shoot for, you want like a 60-second rest interval in between sets or something, or a 3-minute or a 5-minute, whatever that might be, right? But ultimately, every body recovers uniquely. We're all human, so there's some level of commonality, but humans vary a lot. We're dynamic. And even the recovery on set 1 is different than the recovery on set 10. So I think that, spending so much mental and physical energy on timing each rest interval and then stressing out about how you can't maintain it, maybe you pick too high of a load to try to maintain the rest interval. I think that that's such a waste of your time. So, in my experience, for example, I have asthma. After hard bouts, even with light weights, especially high repetitions, it takes me on average much longer than someone else to recover to the same state to be ready to do the next set. And I've also found for me that is variable. I have good days, or maybe days when I happen to take my inhalers, close to training, and then my ability for my cardiovascular system to settle down and get ready for the next set is actually less. And other days where, it's just really humid outside or really cold, or I'm just not in a good state of health that day. And it takes me way longer to get my body calmed down and rested and recovered and ready for that next set. So it varies even for yourself. So I think caring about it has to be this certain number or within this few seconds range. Why? Because your favorite influencer cited some study where that's what they looked at? Okay. Now, I would even make this argument that it probably doesn't matter that much at the highest levels of a sport. And this is going to be given my experience in strongman. But even at that level, okay, maybe you're maximizing human potential ever in that domain, and you've controlled everything else, and you noticed through some experimentation that when you maintain certain rest intervals in between sets, that there's some benefit there. So it's like you've only would I care about something like that when all the other parameters are accounted for and understood, and I've squeezed all the value out of them, right? Then something like rest intervals might play a factor in it. But for most of you watching this, and most humans ever, that's not going to be the case. There's probably a million other factors that are lower hanging fruit that you could execute on to get some value towards whatever, skill performance increase you're looking for, right? So now let me give you another reason why I'm speaking this way. The other reason is through my experiences in strongman. So, it's common. I've seen a lot of people talk about, for example, in the sport of powerlifting, where this concept of rest intervals is really like applied, especially to like dynamic type efforts of different exercises. But that's when you do, usually that idea is when you're like doing, a single heavy compound lift, right? Try to maintain 60-second intervals when you do a strongman event day and you have like 6 skills that you want to train. You think you're going to be able to maintain loads that give you the stimulus you want and keep 60-second rest intervals across many sets of a whole bunch of really heavy, hard, brutal exercises? No, it doesn't happen. And so if you ever train this way or watch people train this way, what happens is they take the rest intervals they need, right? So, obviously there's like a time limit, like you have 4 hours in your day for this strongman event session. Okay. But if I need like 2 minutes this one and 7 minutes next time, who cares? Because ultimately, imagine if I said I had to stick to a 60-second rest interval in between sets, and I have 10 sets to do. But because of that and the load I need to get the stimulus I want, I end up only being able to do 7 of those 10 sets. Now, if I just, maybe stuck to the 60 seconds and then I listened to my body, and when it needed more time, I gave it more time. Maybe those last 3 sets, if I just had taken, 5 minutes instead of 60 seconds or 1 minute, that I would actually be able to complete them. Well, isn't that a better outcome that I complete the 10 sets of stimulus that I want versus 7? You see what I'm trying to get at here? Think about what your actual goal is. Imagine those 10 sets it took you 2 hours to do. Now, I know there's going to be some, intricacies. People are probably already thinking about just like, hormone levels, mineral levels, all this stuff. Of course, there's some nuance there. But if in a training session I get done more work because I took more rest, isn't that better? Doesn't that get me further ahead towards my goals? Yes. So, that's one aspect of why. Now, let me give you one last thing. I hear people or see people like get caught up on this, between set rest interval, and, coach says I should maintain this. I've set this, in my program I need to do. I have to have 90 seconds in between or else, and whatever that or else is, we don't know. But the thing is, like, if you care so much about that, what I hear no one ever talk about is between exercise rest intervals. So you get, it's like people, maybe you, maybe people are so focused on rest intervals, but really that's just the between set rest intervals, right? It's got to be 60 seconds. Coach said it's 60 seconds, right? Or some study says that that's optimal for whatever exercise you're doing or whatever sport you're trying to, improve for, right? Well, what about the between exercise rest intervals? If you're really trying to optimize everything, those matter too, right? What should they be? And also, what about the combinations of them? Like if my, barbell deadlift, I have to use 60 seconds, and then next I have coming up a hamstring curl. What's the optimal number of, seconds I should wait or minutes I should wait in between that barbell deadlift and that hamstring curl? Have people studied this? Does it matter? Is it something you should even be spending energy on? I don't think so. I think people probably have this concept of rest intervals so common, and maybe beginners are pushed into it because there's also people who don't push hard enough. So having short rest intervals, making them time, of course there's a benefit. It gives you an awareness and it forces you to push harder than maybe you would have. But if you're absolute beginner, it's something to try, right? Because you probably don't know how to push hard or strain or work hard for long durations. Okay. But after you've done this a bit, it's actually more important that for longevity's sake, that you listen to your body, right? So that's, I hope I'm really hitting home here with you about why I think little details like this, in the grand scheme of things, for most people in most cases, really don't matter, right? And you might actually be doing yourself a disservice if your body is signaling to you, I need more rest, and you're saying, no, you don't. You can get away with that in the short term. If you keep doing that, just like if, your body's telling you the load is too much and you just keep ignoring it and increasing the load, all of those things lead to, bad scenarios where most likely you're going to get injured, or at minimum you're going to stagnate. You're not going to be able to progress. So that's why I think rest intervals, whether they're between exercises, between sets, really don't matter. So don't get hung up on them. Listen to your body and take the amount of rest that's appropriate for you to get the work done that you have planned. Thanks for watching. Take care.